The most important question I ever got was, what is your legacy? Not the material legacy, but if life stops here, how do you want to be remembered? What is that energy? How do people see you? Complaining? Uplifting? What is your frequency legacy? This podcast series is a result of that question. What is my legacy? A phoenix is burning itself on a funeral pyre, rising from the ashes with a renewed youth to live through another cycle. This fertile ash is filled with phoenix frequencies like compassion, love, forgiveness, intuition, wisdom, generosity, resilience, and creativity, and evolution and involution. I've been in the ashes. I want to give voice to the phoenix frequencies. On a weekly basis, I share my resources or interview another phoenix. I'm Nienke van Bezooijen and I welcome you if this resonates with you. And I invite you to the courage to rise. Welcome to the Phoenix Frequencies. Have you ever been in a situation where you realize, oops, I did it again. I reacted by impulse. If I would have been less impulsive, I would have responded differently. Well, it happened to me a lot. And how to recognize if you are reactive by impulse or responsive with responsibility. When I was in the ashes, that made me at first very reactive. I could be so disappointed about myself, about my capacity to react and rather than respond. It could be a reaction on an email, on a WhatsApp. Everything could trigger my overdrive. My ABI increased the whole problem, and the reactive trigger response wasn't expected because people don't see from the outside what stirred inside of me. I realized I wanted to do something about that because while in reactive mode, it was harder to correct myself and just go in a different direction. Overdrive was already too far. What I did, I created for my trusted friends. I didn't want to be harmed by my reactiveness. My personal manual, like a traffic light. So just imagine a traffic light. If you are in green, all goes well. You can drive, responsibility is easy to access, as well as my capacity to slow down, breathe, listen from my heart and to my heart. But life isn't always easy and not always the meal you like best. So, in an orange state of the traffic light, you can be triggered. Internally, when I leave my core values, I'm in that state. Listening, compassion, joy, wisdom. And triggers can be there when I'm tired physically, after I've been, for example, in a noisy environment. My brain needs time to digest the outside input, such as sound and light and emotions of other people. Do you recognize that? Can be a bit much? Well, sometimes you just get more input than you can digest. Where's that for you? Where do you get more input than you can digest? In the workload, in relationship, in environments, in the news, an inside reaction. Like the filter of what can get into me get wider holes. A lot more gets in. And an orange in traffic light never stays long there. In my signals, I recognize, for example, I tend to over explain. I get wordy. I lose my intuition to pause and to stop myself. I also recognize I talked myself as a teenager out of a near rape. So somewhere inside of me, talking a lot became an impulse where I feel unsafe. That was my background of it. And maybe you have other situations where you get triggered, do something or act in a way because you feel unsafe inside of yourself. I also recognize my thoughts are harder to redirect. I get looping in my thoughts. But then suddenly for others, my traffic light get into red. Where I was so overly communicative, I get silent quickly. I close the door. I withdraw. I don't find connecting words any longer. I opt out. So if you look at yourself, where do you opt out? People outside, it might look as if I'm really unreliable because if I'm withdrawing, you can't reach and I don't respond as you might be expecting. But also my physical signs, I sleep disrupted, as being on guard is needed day and night, like I have so many things internally to digest. It gets harder for me to eat. When my outside world doesn't respect my process, I withdraw fully. And in my Phoenix frequency, I also found my way out. What helps me to reshift instantly is ask me a question, coming from care, true interest. Listen and observe. Ask in case of doubt. How are you feeling? Do you feel safe? Is there anything you need? If you look at your own manual, how are you wired? When do you function authentically, freeze and at ease in green? What are your triggers, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually? When do you feel that you're pulled off track? What are signals you give yourself, but also what signals are there for the outside world? And if you crack through the ice, what are your red traffic light signals? How do you feel? How do you react? How would your life look like if you, for yourself, would be fully recognizing and acknowledging your own trigger manual? It's a vulnerable thing to look at that in that way. But before you get reactive, impulsive, with all consequences, what would be helpful to shift before you fall? And if you can be with people who care about you, even when you are in overdrive, would it be helpful for them to know your manual as well? Catch yourself before you get triggered to fall. And know what frequencies you need to rise above your triggers, no matter what else happens in life. It takes a hard, vulnerable inquiry to truly look honestly to yourself. Where are you? Do you dare to shift from reactiveness to responsibility? And if you feel you could benefit from this, to have the capacity to catch yourself before you fall in reactiveness, I wish for you that you would just take a pause and start noticing what's really going on. When are you in green? When are you accessing the orange part fast? Quick shift to red. And what are your red signals, your red flags? Dare to catch yourself. Be your own parachute. Do your inquiry. But most of all, learn to recognize the frequencies what will support you to rise.